Welcome all. In this video we will see how to write a function that checks whether a string has only capital letters. So to show this graphically, so we create a function. And the name of this function is has only capital letters. So the name of the function is has only capital letters. The input is a string. So it has a single input. And the output is true if the string has only capital letters. And otherwise false. So again, we make a function. This function checks if a string has only capital letters. So the name of this function is has only capital letters. The input is a string, and the output is either true if the string has only capital letters, and otherwise it's false. So how to implement this function is as follows. So again, when we implement a function, we first have to think about the data type of its return, of its output, then the function name, then rounded brackets, and between the rounded brackets we place the inputs of the function, and then curly brackets, and between the curly brackets we implement the function. So again, here we have the data type. The data type represents the data type of the output of the function. In this case, it's true if the string has only capital letters, otherwise false. So we have to think about a data type that suits this purpose. The function name is the name of the function. So for example, has only capital letters. The inputs is in this case a single input, namely a string. And furthermore, we have to implement here the function. So first we have to think about the data type of the output. And since this function only returns true or false, we can use the data type Boolean. Yeah, so Boolean is the data type that we use when a variable is either true or false. So now the name of the function, so we can use this name here, so has only capital letters. And the input of this function is a single input, which is a string, so I will use this input here. Yeah, so the name of my input is S, and it's of data type string. So now we have to check whether this string has only capital letters. So what we can do is iterate over each character in the string and check for each character whether it's a capital letter or not. So for now we assume the string has only capital letters. So what we can do is make a Boolean here, name it only capital is true. So we have a variable here of data type Boolean, and this variable here holds whether the string has only capital letters or not. So next we make a for loop, and with this for loop we iterate over each character in the string, and if we find a character that's different than a capital letter, then we make this Boolean false. Yeah, and finally we return the value in this Boolean here. Yeah, so if we do not find any character other than a capital letter, the only capital will remain true, and therefore we return true from this function. And if we find in this for loop another character than a capital letter, then we make this Boolean false, and therefore we will return false here at the end of the function. So for this for loop, we want to iterate over each character. So we have to use the following syntax. And what we have to do for each character is check whether it's not a capital letter. So if we go to the ASCII table here, so we have the ASCII table, and we see here all the capital letters, and what we want to find is whether a character is smaller than A, meaning it's one of these characters here in these columns, or whether it's greater than Z, meaning it's one of these characters. And if we find one of these characters, we know it's not a capital letter, and therefore we have to return false from this function. So what we do here in this for loop is creating an if statement, and we check if the character is smaller than capital A. Yeah, so we check whether the character is smaller than A, so meaning one of these characters here. Or if it's greater than character Z, meaning it's one of these characters here. Yeah, so if it's one of these characters, we say only capital is false, because we found another character than a capital letter. So what we do with this for loop is we iterate over each character, and for each character we check whether it's not a capital letter by using this condition here. And if we find a character that's not a capital letter, we make this boolean here false. Yeah, and at the end we return the value in this boolean here. So now we can use this function here in the main. So what we can do here is call the function. So we have to type the name of the function. So has only capital letters. Then rounded brackets, and between the rounded brackets we have to put the input of the function. In this case, a single input, which is a string. So for example, ABC with all capital letters, and then a semicolon to end the statement. However, this function returns either true or false, but we do not do anything with it. So we can print the result by using cout. So let's run this program, and we see it prints 1. So what happens here is that on line 25 we call the function as only capital letters, so this function here above, and as an input we pass ABC, all capital letters, to this input S. Then on line 9 we make a boolean, and we assign the value true to this boolean, and then we make a for loop. So we create an integer here, I. We assign the value 0 to this integer. Then we check this condition. So I is 0 in this case. S.size is 3 in this case, because the string is ABC, so it contains 3 characters, and therefore S.size will be 3. And 0 is smaller than 3, so this condition here will be true, and therefore it enters the for loop. And now with the if, we check whether the character is outside a capital letter. So what happens here is I check first if S with index I, so I is 0, so I check the first character of the string, which is A in this case. So I check whether A is smaller than A, which is false, and I check whether A is greater than Z, which is also not the case, because we see A is here in the ASCII table, so A is linked to the number 65, and Z is linked to number 90, and 65 is not greater than 90. Yeah, so therefore this comparison will also be false. So we have here false on the left side of the OR operator, and also on the right side of the OR operator will be false, and therefore as a whole it will become false, and therefore it will not enter the if statement, and therefore the only capital boolean remains true. So this repeats for all characters in the string, and if it finds one character that's outside the capital letters, meaning either of these characters here or greater than Z, so one of these characters here, then we make the only capital false. And after for loop, we return the value in only capital. So when we call this function returns either true or false, and that's being printed on the console. So let's try another input, for example, A, B, C, with A as a small letter now. And if we run this program again, it prints 0. Yeah, because A is a small letter. That's it for this video. In this video we have seen how to write a function that checks if a string only contains capital letters.